January 17th, 1899. As the sun rises on the freezing slums of Brooklyn, Gabriel and Teresa Capone welcome their fourth child into the world, Alphonse Gabriel Capone. Little did they know the innocent baby in front of them was going to put their family name on the map. For all the wrong reasons. Born in a cramped tenement at 95 Navy Street, young Al's first cries echoed through the noisy, immigrant-packed streets. His parents, Italian immigrants struggling to make ends meet, probably hoped he'd grow up to be a barber, like his dad, or a seamstress, like his mom's talents, not a gangster kingpin. But hey, dreams change when you grow up surrounded by dock workers, street gangs, and the occasional temperamental pigeon. Seriously, those pigeons had attitude problems. Al's childhood was like a boot camp for the streets. The Navy Yard district was a melting pot of crime, poverty, and hard-working immigrants. Fun fact, Al was actually a pretty good student until he found the schoolyard a little too boring compared to the streets. Known for his tough guy attitude, young Al wasn't the kid to back down from a fight. He even earned the nickname Snorky, which basically meant he was loud and a little cocky, because who doesn't want a nickname that sounds like a confused dolphin? Before he was a crime boss, Al tried a few legit jobs. He worked as a bowling alley pin setter, a shoeshine boy, and even a meat packer. Ah, yes, the glamorous life of shoving pins and shining shoes. Living the dream. But the streets had their pull, and the small-time gangs of Brooklyn were a tempting alternative to the 9-to-5 grind. Al's first real break in the criminal world came when he joined the 5 Points Gang, a notorious group running the Brooklyn streets. He worked under Johnny Torrio, a mob boss who recognized Al's talent for leadership, persuasion, and, well, being scary when needed. Think of it like a mentorship, but with guns. By his early 20s, Capone was running numbers, shaking down businesses, and becoming a trusted player in the underground. Basically, he went from kid who couldn't sit still to kingpin with a fancy hat. When Prohibition hit in 1920, Al saw an opportunity bigger than any bowling alley paycheck. Bootlegging. Alcohol was illegal, but people still wanted to party, and Al was more than happy to oblige. Soon, he took over Chicago's South Side Gang, transforming it into the infamous Chicago outfit. Capone controlled speakeasies, brothels, gambling dens, and even politicians. Yes, politicians, because who doesn't like a little extra encouragement during election season? His nickname, Scarface. But don't let the scars fool you. He was charming, generous, and had a soft spot for family and his beloved wife, May. May was said to be the only person who could keep him grounded. Speaking of May, Al married her in 1918. They had a son named Albert Francis Capone. Family was important to Al, despite his violent reputation. He was known to lavish his relatives with gifts and looked out for his siblings, some of whom also got involved in the business. Though, honestly, family dinners must have been a bit awkward. Pass the gravy and maybe don't talk about the hits. Despite his power, Al wasn't invincible. In 1931, after years of investigations, he was convicted not for murder or bootlegging, but for tax evasion. Because apparently the government couldn't catch him for all the serious crimes, but they nailed him for not paying his taxes. He was sentenced to 11 years in the infamous Alcatraz prison. Behind bars, Capone's health deteriorated rapidly due to syphilis, a disease he had long ignored. The mighty gangster was slowly fading away. After serving about 7 years, Al was released early due to his declining health in 1939. His empire, however, had crumbled. Rival gangs had taken over, and the Prohibition era was ending. The king was dead. Al Capone died on January 25, 1947, at the age of 48. He passed away quietly at his Florida home, far from the noisy streets where his legend was born. From the slums of Brooklyn to the throne of Chicago's underworld, Capone's story is a wild ride of ambition, crime, and family. So next time you hear the name Al Capone, remember, behind the scar, the crime, and the headlines was a kid from the Brooklyn slums who dreamed big, maybe a little too big. And hey, if you ever meet a pigeon with an attitude, maybe it's just his old neighborhood sending regards.